stay on, so you're recording for the rest of the evening. Evening, you want to stand and we'll say a pledge of allegiance? Mr. Maganon, if you'd lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's a board member.
So out the window?
Well, it's not a member of the public.
No, we'll let her sit down. Madam Secretary, has this meeting been properly noticed in the paper?
Yes, Chairman, it has.
Okay. Have a roll call. Lawson just called, he's going to be a few minutes late.
Mr. Bello, Mr. Hurtkevich, Mr. Davis,
Here.
Ms. Lee. Here. Councilman Limbo,
Here.
Mr. McEnroe,
present.
Ms. O'Leary,
Here.
Mr. Velosan, you said state's going to be late.
He's going to be late.
Ms. Matilla, Chairman Ty.
Here.
We have a quorum.
So we have some memorializations of resolutions. We have the memorialization of the Robert Downey subdivision, block 337, lot 2, 3365 Washington Avenue, Parlin, New Jersey. What's your pleasure with that?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we accept the resolution.
Second.
Any questions on that resolution? If not, I'll have a roll call.
Excuse me, Chairman, I don't think I was here for that, so I can't vote on it, right?
You weren't here.
No.
Right, okay.
No.
Ms. Lee? Yes. Mr. Velosan and Chairman Ty.
Here. Yes.
Resolution granted.
We granted it already, it's adopted.
Adopted. Thank you.
We need to accept the minutes for the planning board of May 16th and June, well, we'll do that first. I need a motion to accept the planning board minutes for May 16th.
So moved.
motion.
Second. Any questions on that motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
We didn't take a vote for that, because that's a roll call vote, isn't it? Minutes?
We never done roll call.
Because I wasn't here.
Accepted for the minutes of the June 13th meeting. I need a motion for those. They're in your packets.
So moved.
I have a second. Having a second, any questions on the June 13th meeting? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Communication agenda?
No communication agenda.
Okay. Site plan subdivision?
No hearings for that.
No hearings. Old business, new business, administration business. We have the Mako property, the Crossman Mako property, an area of redevelopment study for the block 249, lot 1, block 250, lot 1, and block 251, lot 1. I understand we have somebody from CME that's going to run this through us. And you are? Hello, Peter.
From CME Associates.
He's got to be qualified and sworn in.
Okay, and your qualifications are?
I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I have both a professional, state professional planning license as well as my AICP certification. I provided presentations such as this for redevelopment plans before numerous planning boards throughout the
I believe him.
the state of New Jersey.
We're going to accept his credentials, do I?
He looks
Okay.
honest.
Thank you.
Anybody have any problems, we'll accept your credentials, and then you have to be sworn in by,
Absolutely.
You swear the testimony you're about to give the board in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, just to clarify for the record here, sir, you are one of two authors of the study prepared by your firm dated January 24, 2018, as it relates to the Crossman Mako property, more specifically designated and identified as Block 249, Lot 1, Block 250, Lot 1, and Block 251, Lot 1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And let's move this report, mark it, and move it into evidence. I hand the secretary a copy of the report, we'll mark it, make it, and move it into evidence as a part of the record. So for our purposes this evening, this is a public process as to the board's, the governing body has referred this matter to the board for the purpose of conducting a study to determine whether or not the area in question that I just identified should be designated as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment. Is that right?
That's correct.
So without having you read every single page of the report that has now been moved into evidence, if you could just give us give the board a brief overview. Of course, if there's any members of the public out there, I only see one person, I don't know if she's here on this case or not. But just give us a broad overview. I know that your conclusions, your findings are set forth on pages 13 through 18.
Correct.
So if you can hit those as well, and we'll be able to move on.
That sounds good. Yeah, just very, very brief overview, touching on the key points. So of course, is the area in need of redevelopment study for block 249, lot 1.
Just pull that mic a little closer to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Is that a little bit better? I'll try to project my voice a little bit
I
more
just
too.
want to make sure you're getting picked up.
Absolutely. So block 249, lot 1, block 250, lot 1, and block 251, lot 1 are the lots that comprise the study area. The study was conducted as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment study in accordance with the local redevelopment and housing law. Study is broken up into 3 main sections. The first is a description of the physical conditions on the property. The second is a review of zoning and master plan designations for the area. And the third is an analysis describing how the study area meets the statutory criteria. Study area is approximately 158 acres in size. It is shown on the exhibit to my right. I don't know. This is actually a map from the study itself, so I'm not sure if we need to enter this into evidence, but I defer to counsel. Here. Yeah, thank you.
So as you can see, you have residential development to the northwest and south, and you have commercial industrial development to the northeast, east, and southeast. Property is essentially vacant with minimal improvements in terms of gravel-covered driveways and the like. Otherwise, there's no structures or any types of improvements.
Is that a blow-up, that exhibit, is that a blow-up of that which is contained in your report?
It is. This is a blow-up of the figure on page 3 of the report.
Okay, so we don't need really to mark that. It's really, it's not changed by anything that you've done, and it's consistent with what is in the report.
That's correct.
Right, and I assume you want to take that exhibit back with you?
Either way is fine.
Okay, so let's mark the report A1 and make that exhibit A2, just for the record. If you wanted to keep it, if you wanted to take it back, we wouldn't mark it, but since you're gonna leave it here, once you mark it, it's gonna be here for 45 days. And then you can have it. Hang it in your bathroom, you're nice.
And just real quick, so that this information that I had just mentioned is in section 2, study area characteristics. The report then goes into environmental constraints, which this property has some freshwater wetlands, some floodplains associated with the wetlands areas, as well as some uncompacted and unstable fill that has some tree stumps and other types of debris mixed in within it. And in terms of zoning, section 3, starting on page 7, we looked at existing zoning. Block 251, lot 1 is located in the SCD zone, and block 250, lot 1, and 249, lot 1 are located in the PD7 single-family planned unit development zone. The pages that follow show the permitted uses and the bulk standards in those zones. And then that leads to the next section of the report on page 12, which is master plan consistency. We found the designation of this redevelopment area would be consistent with the master plan. There's several goals listed on that page, which I won't, since they're in the report, I don't need to get into in detail, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And in addition, it's not only consistent with the master plan, but also the state development and redevelopment area, or redevelopment plan, rather. With regard to the criteria beginning in section 4, beginning on page 13, relevant criteria in this case are criteria C, D, and E. Criteria C pertains to unimproved vacant land that has remained so for a period of 10 years or more. Criteria D pertains to buildings or improvements in this case, since there's no buildings that have obsolete layout and design, where there's, let's say, different types of issues with the layout and the arrangement on site that could be detrimental to the safety, health, morals, and welfare of the community. And criteria E pertains to a growing or total lack of proper utilization of areas, resulting in a stagnant and unproductive condition of land potentially useful and valuable for contributing to and serving the public health, safety, and general welfare. So with regard to those criteria, pages 14, redevelopment analysis, through the majority of page 17 contain the actual analysis that relates to those three criteria. It was found that this site meets criteria C based upon it having been vacant for 10 or more years, and that's based on a review of available tax data and property data at the borough here. In addition, it's our understanding and our conclusion that the soil on site and other factors have contributed to that site remaining vacant. There's some obstacles to development. With regard to criteria D, as I had mentioned before, the site's just improved with gravel driveways. It's clearly underutilized. It's an obsolete layout or design as it would relate to all the different permitted uses that could potentially be developed on this property. And we find that it satisfies criteria D. And with regard to criteria E, as I mentioned, the property is underutilized and appears to meet that criteria as well. And in summary, we find that the site is suitable to be designated as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment based on finding that it satisfies criteria C, D, and E of the local redevelopment and housing law.
Now, that's more specifically set forth in NJSA 48:12A-5, those criteria that you just made reference to.
That is correct. Thank you.
And so you conclude with your professional opinion that the area in question meets the criteria set forth in the statute designating this as an area in need of redevelopment?
I do.
That's your opinion?
Yes, that's correct.
If anybody on the board has questions, if not, you just open it up to the public.
Does anyone on the board have questions? And we can open up to the public, Chairman?
Yes. I'll make,
Make a motion.
well, we'll make a motion. Second? All in favor? Anybody from the public like to speak? Anybody from the public like to speak? I'll take a motion to close the public.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody on the board have any questions of the engineer? Professional planner, I'm sorry. Or the engineer or the planner?
Oh, our planner, our planner or our engineer, is that what you meant?
All right, yes. So this is we're gonna send this study back. We're gonna call for a vote to send the study back to the mayor and council.
Well, what you're voting on is whether or not you agree that the area, based upon the testimony of a professional planner from CME, Van Decoy, is it?
Van and Coy.
That's it, right? Good, sorry. Whether or not it meets the criteria, for the purpose of designating this land as an area in need of redevelopment, non-condemnation. That's all it does.
All right, let me ask you a question. Does he still have a application for the houses on file? Meaning Mako?
I do have files still with that plan.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, that application was submitted probably a year or so ago.
Right.
It was determined that it was not complete at that time. There was a report that was provided by our office to the applicant and the attorney, and we've not received any documents since then. So at this point, I'd say you have something, but it's been deemed incomplete.
Okay.
I just want to point out for the record Madam Secretary, that the board has complied with the notice requirements with respect to NJSA 48:12A-6, in that a copy of the notice is published in the newspaper of general circulation in the municipality once each week for 2 consecutive weeks, and the last publication was not less than 10 days prior to the hearing set,
That's,
prior to the date set for the hearing.
that's correct, yes.
What's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
A motion and a second to accept the report and send the report back to the mayor and council. Is that correct?
Yeah, with a designation agreeing that it's an area in need of redevelopment, and that is it's not a resolution that I drafted. You know, you can do this by resolution or report. Usually the plan requires a report under the housing redevelopment law, but if you look at the statute, it just says that after completing the hearing on this matter, the planning board shall recommend that the delineated area or any part thereof to be determined or not to be determined by the municipal governing body to be a redevelopment area. So you can do it by resolution or report, really.
Well, we'll do it by report since we have it here.
That's what I did.
All right, so we have a report here that we're going to send back in concurrence that we agree with the CME report.
Exactly.
We'll take a roll call.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Limbo?
Yes.
Mr. McEnon?
Yes.
Ms. O'Leary?
Yes.
Chairman Ty?
Yes.
Report approved?
Yes.
Well, the report is part of the adoption of a recommendation that it be designated as an area of redevelopment.
That's it, right?
So it's good to say recommended.
That's it. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Let's stay here. Yeah. Jay's here. We'll give it back to you in 45 days. Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
all right, so today is the 18th. August 1st meeting is going to be canceled. August 15th, we have the Journey Mill Center 2 final site plan. Is that the warehouses?
Mr. Chairman, yes, you granted preliminary approval for the project a number of months ago, and they're now coming back for final approval, so that's on for your August 15th agenda.
Okay. I did receive something from Terry. They have a number of slots. If anybody wants to go to the League of Municipalities, we have the information here.
How do you guys work that? I mean, what do you do with the lawyers? Do the lawyers get to go? I mean, I'm already going,
No,
doesn't
the
matter.
lawyers usually sponsor us. Yeah, that's my understanding.
The lawyers.
Oh, my God. You know, there's sometimes you just don't say things.
You just shouldn't have.
You end up shooting yourself right in the foot.
I'm not quite sure, John, maybe you can answer that, or Jay goes down, I mean, professionally,
No, I go, when I go down, I go down on my own expense card.
They offer room and board for anybody. There's, if you haven't gone and you have the time, the league does have a lot of decent classes that you can take besides just eat down there. But anyway, that's all I have under good and welfare.
You guys have a suite down there, or what do you do?
No, we go to Jay's party.
That's probably a good thing. That's probably a good thing. I heard.
So, if you really want to know the truth, everybody has parties down there. That being said, make a motion to open up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. All in favor?
Aye.
Take a motion to adjourn.
I have
Oh,
one
go ahead.
question for the planner.
What about my stuff? Oh, that's it.
The video that we were required to watch from the state about runoff water management, a lot of good ideas in there. How do we incorporate that? Is that something that we can insist upon an applicant? For example, let's say in the future, big buildings are built, green roofs and those types of things, or rain gardens, prevent, impervious materials, and all those were really good ideas I was unaware of. What kind of, how can we enforce that, or can we?
I think you can enforce it, right? You recommend?
You can always ask.
How do you do something like that in developments like, it's like a town lake, where you have a planned residential development? How do you incorporate something like that into that?
Yeah, it's actually-
with soil.
Right, as
Yeah,
part of
so
our
technical
engineering
stuff,
review, we look at those type of things. I think your issue is, can you require the developer to do a specific thing?
Right.
And I think that's where you may run into a problem, because by law, he has different options that are available to him.
Right, but
as
all
to
the
what can be done.
applications I've seen here, where you looked at the technical reviews, a lot of the things that we just don't discuss because those are technical, and you look at that.
Right.
This video is saying, there are other alternatives than that, than to, put water in basins and release them and all those other types of stuff.
There are, but, in the beginning, you can do that, but you can't force anybody to do it. In Concordia, where I play golf, it's a managed 55 and older. They don't waste a drop of water. It all goes back into lakes. And then they pump it out, and they use their own water to, but you can see the way, when it rains, you can see where all of the water goes, and they redirect it. When you get into LEED certification in buildings, that's where you see a lot of it, right, Jay?
Certain types of improvements go along with being lead, yes. If the board saw something that they'd like to encourage, let me know, and we can try to go through and encourage the
I
developer
like the
to do
green
certain
roof
things.
concept, if you're building, this town has a lot of warehouses. Think about the runoff that's coming off of those buildings.
They're about 40 years away, because right now the green roofs look good, but when they crash, they crash. It's not like putting a new tar roof on. We had a guy that, one of the new buildings that we built over at the college, that was sort of like that. And the guy from the maintenance just went, nah.
I just thought it was good
Then
concept.
you need a gardener. I mean, to take care of it all when you're
Well,
talking about that
if it's
much.
done right, they are, but, now, I have a question. I watched that too. There was nothing saying that you had to log on and,
No, you just access the site. There's no way that they could prove that you access to see the video.
I thought there was gonna be something, a sign, electronically signed, but
Yeah,
there
you just need
wasn't.
to email me and let me know that you.
I'm telling you, I watched it.
Yeah, at the end of the year, your Public Works Director is the one that enforces the ordinance. At the end of the year, he's got to submit an annual report to the state. So he'll contact your secretary and request to be provided with something that says X number of board members viewed the video, and he'll include that with his report.
'Cause I don't know anywhere in town where those concepts have been applied, at least since I've been on.
You're right.
I mean, especially, like you look at a lot of older residences that were built in the 70s and 80s, and where I live, all your downspouts of your house go on the ground and come out the
That's
street.
right.
Where they're frowning upon that.
That's not permitted any longer, then.
Right. So when we build Town Lake and other developments like that, we don't incorporate that system?
See, Town Lake's a little different because you have poor soil conditions, so trying to go through and take that discharge and have it run into the ground. A lot of times you have pervious pavement where the flow can go through the pavement. Those are things that are encouraged to go through and assist with the
That's why we have
recharge.
civil engineers, I guess, to
And
figure that out.
there's certain conditions where you can do it, certain ones when you can't.
What about, like, if you have a detention basin, and if it drains to the street, like, the spouts go, from the roof to the street, goes into the sewer system, goes into detention system.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
one.
but the video talked about doing
That's
non-structural
pollution then.
types of solutions.
Yeah.
That's a structural solution.
It is.
So, I just,
A lot of it is cost
I
on
watched the
behalf of the
video and I
developer.
comprehended it, that's all.
A lot of cost, a lot is maintenance issues for the developer, but certain types of, instead of detention basins, you may have an underground structure that purifies the water before it discharges. Those type of things are incorporated into design, most designs now.
So that water coming off the town lake, is that going into the lake? Is that
Yes,
what's
it's out
happening?
into the lake, yes.
You see, like, the one building we have, that even the water, like your water from your sinks and your toilets,
Right.
that's collected, and it's not the sewage part, but
Right.
the gray water.
Understand.
And the gray water then gets mixed with the rainwater before it goes out. Or they use the gray water again in the cooling towers.
Thought that was an interesting video.
Yeah, it is, it's, but like I said, from what I got out of it, it's like 40 years away.
We're proactive.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could,
you can be.
you can always ask them to do
Good
something.
technology. After I watched it, I said to my husband, why would anybody build a mall or, because, right, there's just so much behind the scenes, money-wise and planning-wise,
Oh, yeah.
so. But it is all good, you're right, there's, I like to
All
think
right.
I learned a little bit.
Anybody else want to stay here any longer?
Good night.
We got an adjournment? All in favor?
Aye.
Gracie.
All right, see you on August 15th.
August.
Thank you, thank you.
Anybody have any questions about that case I sent you? The Walsh case and my little memo about C2,
What?
about the C2, granting a C2 variance?
Oh, that one.
Did you read it? You didn't read it?
I'll get
You didn't read it?
I'll read
All right,
this.
well, you guys read it and let me know if you have any questions. I think it's very informative for you. I can send it to you. Yeah,
Did he send,
Yeah.
did you send that?
you're supposed to send it.
I don't recall.
You don't
getting
re-
it.
Can't read what I don't see.
All right,
All right, we'll talk about
we'll
it.
do it and discuss it the next meeting. It's
Give
really a
Mike something to
case.
chew on.
This case you won?
No, no, this is a case, I won a few cases, but this is one of them.
Just a few?
Yeah, but yeah, you get it, and it's a good read. In a
Night,
C2
everyone.
case. Very good. That's right, she forgot to do it.